The mining colony on Xeno 47 was a small and isolated place forgotten by most of the galaxy. It was far from any central government, sitting on a planet with dangerous wildlife, harsh weather, and little in terms of resources. The colony consisted of human settlers, alien species, and a few outcasts who all made their living by digging into the rocky ground, searching for anything valuable. Life was tough, but it was the only life they knew. For years, the colonists lived with the constant threat of attack from the planet's wild animals, and from each other. Their cries for help, if they even dared make them, were lost in the endless stretches of space. No one cared about Xeno 47, but everything changed one day when an SOS signal pierced the quiet of the endless void. It wasn't just a regular distress call. The message was different, urgent, and coded in several languages. Among them was one language that stood out: the ancient language of the Deathworlders. Deathworlders were legendary beings, warriors who hailed from the most hostile planets in the galaxy. Their strength, skills, and ruthless nature were the stuff of myth. The stories told of their fleets, their battles, and their unyielding will to fight. For centuries, they had remained hidden in the deepest corners of space, their fleets dormant, waiting for the right moment to strike. Some even said they only answered when the galaxy was in real danger. The SOS signal was faint, struggling to reach its destination, but it carried a desperation that none could ignore. The plea was clear: we need help, and it was not from any ordinary world. This was a call that carried the weight of 1,000 worlds. The signal traveled across the galaxy, finding its way to the ears of the Deathworlder fleet. The fleet had remained silent for centuries, guarding secrets and waiting for a moment when their presence was truly needed, and now that moment had arrived. As the signal echoed across the galaxy, Commander Kalen sat in his command chair aboard the Vengeance, the flagship of the Deathworlder fleet. The ship's dark, sleek surface reflected the stars outside as the cold hum of the engines reverberated through the walls. Kalen's eyes narrowed as he listened to the SOS. His face, hardened by years of battle, revealed little, but deep inside something stirred. "Prepare the fleet," he ordered. His voice was calm, but it held the authority that only a true leader could command. The crew moved swiftly, responding to his orders without hesitation. They had all heard the tales of the Deathworlder fleet, the legends of their impossible victories and unbreakable resolve. Kalen was more than just their leader. He was a symbol, a living legend, a force that even the toughest warriors feared. The fleet was ready. The message had been received, and it was time to act. Kalen's fingers tapped the console in front of him, and within moments the fleet began to mobilize. Dozens of ships, each more terrifying than the last, powered up their engines and prepared to jump to the location of the SOS. The journey to Xeno 47 was swift. The Deathworlder's ships cut through space like knives, their dark silhouettes flashing in and out of hyperspace. Kalen stood on the bridge of the Vengeance, staring out at the empty expanse of space. His crew moved around him, all focused on their tasks. They were all trained for this. But even with their advanced technology and vast experience, there was something unsettling about the signal they had received. The planets they had visited before, the battles they had fought, all seemed distant compared to what lay ahead. Xeno 47 was a mysterious place, one that was only known for its harsh environment and its struggle to survive. But this message, this cry for help, it wasn't something that could be ignored. "We will find out what is behind this," Kalen said to his first officer, Jarek, who stood beside him. "If it's a trap, we'll deal with it as we always do. But if it's not, we'll save them, no matter what." Jarek nodded, his eyes filled with respect. "Understood, Commander. We'll follow your lead." As the Vengeance and its fleet approached Xeno 47, the first signs of life began to appear. The planet loomed ahead, covered in clouds and mist, its surface littered with rugged mountains and deep canyons. The mining colony was located near one of the planet's equators, hidden among the cliffs and caves that offered little shelter from the dangerous wildlife that roamed the land. The fleet descended, cutting through the atmosphere with ease. As they approached, a view of the colony's buildings came into focus. They were small, rough structures built to withstand the harsh elements, but they were far from a welcoming sight. Smoke rose from a few chimneys, and there was a tense stillness in the air, as if the whole colony was holding its breath, waiting for something to happen. Kalen's gaze hardened as the ship touched down. The entire fleet settled around the colony, casting long shadows over the land. The colonists, small figures in the distance, looked up in awe and fear as the ships landed. They had never seen anything like this before. The stories of the Deathworlders were nothing more than myths to them. But now the legends were standing right before their eyes. The heavy metal doors of the Vengeance opened and Kalen stepped out, his boots crunching on the rocky ground. His armor gleamed in the dim light, his presence both commanding and terrifying. He was followed by his most trusted soldiers, each wearing the same dark, imposing armor, their faces unreadable behind their helmets. The colonists gathered around, some of them whispering to each other, while others stood frozen in fear. They had never imagined that help would come in the form of these warriors, these living legends. Kalen scanned the crowd, his voice booming across the silent expanse. "I am Commander Kalen of the Deathworlder fleet," he said. "We've come to answer your call." "What is happening here?" One of the colony leaders, a middle-aged woman with weathered skin and a hardened expression, stepped forward. "We didn't expect this," she said, her voice shaking. "We didn't know who to call. But we were desperate. There's something on this planet, something we can't control." Kalen nodded, his gaze hardening. "Show me." The woman led him and his crew toward the center of the colony, where the true danger awaited. The cold air of Xeno 47 bit at Kalen's skin as he followed the colony leader through narrow, winding streets. The place seemed to be in disarray. Buildings were run down and people moved quickly as if something threatened them. The tension in the air was thick, but Kalen's resolve remained unshaken. The people were terrified, and it was his mission to uncover why. The leader led him to a large, heavy door built into the side of a mountain. Her face was filled with worry as she spoke. "This is where it started. The artifact we found, it's not just a relic, it's a weapon, one we can't control." Kalen nodded, his gaze unwavering. "Take me to it." The door creaked open as the group entered a cavernous underground chamber. Inside, faint light illuminated the edges of strange alien carvings that covered the walls. In the center of the room stood the artifact, a large glowing sphere surrounded by intricate patterns. It hummed with power, and its energy sent a chill down Kalen's spine. He had seen many ancient objects in his time, but nothing like this. The leader stepped closer to the artifact, her face filled with fear. "We didn't know what we were dealing with." At first it seemed harmless, but then things began to change. The wildlife grew more violent, the storms became fiercer, and people started disappearing. We thought it was just the planet. But now we know better. Kalen approached the artifact cautiously, his fingers brushing the smooth surface. The power emanating from it was unlike anything he had ever felt. It wasn't just a weapon. It was something far older, something more dangerous than anything he could have imagined. "Tell me everything," Kalen demanded, his voice low and steady. The leader took a deep breath, her voice shaky as she spoke. "The artifact is a relic from a long-forgotten war between ancient species. It was buried here long ago, left hidden for a reason. But when we uncovered it, the rift it created began to pull at the very fabric of reality. The disturbances, they're getting worse. If we don't stop it, it could tear this planet apart, and maybe more." Kalen's mind raced. The artifact was more than just a danger to Xeno 47. If it was powerful enough to create a rift in reality, its consequences could reach far beyond this planet. "We have to neutralize it," Kalen said, his voice firm. "We can't allow this power to fall into the wrong hands." "How many people are still here?" The leader hesitated. "A few hundred. Most have taken shelter in the caves. They're too afraid to leave." Kalen turned toward his second-in-command, Jarek, who stood nearby. "Jarek, send word to the fleet. Prepare for battle. We can't afford to waste any more time." Jarek nodded and moved to the communication console. As the message was sent, Kalen turned back to the artifact, his eyes narrowing. The rift was growing, and they were running out of time. Suddenly, the ground beneath their feet trembled. The low hum of the artifact grew louder, and the air seemed to thicken with unnatural energy. The leader gasped, her eyes wide with fear. "It's happening again." From the shadows of the cavern, strange shapes began to emerge, beings of dark energy, their forms flickering in and out of existence. They were the entities from beyond the rift, and they were hungry for the power that the artifact offered. Kalen drew his weapon, a sleek, deadly blade forged from the hardest metals known to the Deathworlders. He stepped forward, his team falling into formation behind him. "Stay close," he ordered, his voice cold and commanding. The entities were quick, their movements unpredictable as they rushed toward the group. Kalen swung his blade, cutting through the first creature with ease. Its form disintegrated into nothingness, but more appeared in its place. The battle had begun. His crew fought with lethal efficiency, their movements precise and deadly. They were trained for moments like this, and nothing could shake their focus. Kalen fought at the front, his every strike bringing down the creatures with terrifying speed. His soldiers worked in perfect unison, each one covering the other as they carved a path through the otherworldly beings. But despite their strength, the entities seemed endless. Kalen's heart pounded in his chest as he realized they were not just fighting for survival. They were fighting against an unstoppable force. And the artifact was the source of it all. Jarek, Kalen shouted. Is the fleet in position? Yarek's voice crackled through the comms. Fleet is in position, Commander. We're ready to fire on your command. Kalen didn't hesitate. Do it. Now. The ground shook violently as the ships of the Deathworlder fleet fired their weapons. The sky above darkened as energy beams streaked across the atmosphere, striking the planet's surface with terrifying force. The rift began to fluctuate, its energy growing more erratic with every blast. Kalen looked toward the artifact. The glow of its energy intensified, and he knew that they had only one chance to stop it. With a determined roar, he charged toward the artifact, his team following close behind. Protect the artifact, Kalen ordered, but as they neared it, a powerful force threw them back. The rift's energy surged, pushing them away from the artifact with an invisible hand. Kalen gritted his teeth, struggling to stand as the air around him warped and bent. We need to get closer, Kalen said, standing firm despite the strain. This is our only chance. His soldiers pushed forward, using every ounce of their strength to resist the pull of the rift. With a final surge of energy, Kalen reached the artifact and placed his hand on its surface. The power that surged through him was overwhelming, but he did not flinch. He could feel the rift growing, its energy tearing at the very fabric of space. Now, Kalen shouted. With one last push, the fleet fired everything they had, striking the artifact with devastating force. The rift began to collapse, its energy dissipating in a brilliant explosion of light. The entities screamed as they were sucked back into the void. The ground stopped shaking, and the unnatural hum of the artifact began to fade. Kalen stood, breathing heavily as he looked at the now dormant artifact. The battle was over, but at what cost? The fleet's ships began to land, their crews joining Kalen and his team on the surface. The planet was quiet once again, but the aftermath of the battle had left its mark. The rift had been sealed, but the scars it left would remain forever. Kalen turned to the colony leader. Your planet is safe for now. But this is just the beginning. Keep the artifact buried, and never forget the power that lies within it. As the Deathworlder fleet prepared to leave, Kalen looked out at the horizon. The galaxy had been saved, but at a great cost. And he knew that this was only one battle in a much larger war that was yet to come.